Medieval public executions, the shocking entertainment that would be illegal today. What if I told you that in the medieval world, death was not something people hid from? It was something they gathered to watch, cheer, and even celebrate. Imagine a time when public squares became theaters of brutality, and the final breath of a condemned soul was not a tragedy, but a spectacle. This was the age of public executions, one of the most chilling medieval practices that, if repeated today, would undoubtedly be considered a crime against humanity. Today, let's travel back into the heart of the Middle Ages, where justice and entertainment were disturbingly intertwined, and where the crowd's thirst for blood often outweighed compassion. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more shocking and bizarre stories from history. The stage of death, how executions became theater. In medieval towns, justice wasn't carried out behind closed prison doors. Instead, it unfolded under the open sky, in the very heart of the community. Public squares, castle courtyards, and even city gates were transformed into makeshift stages. Executions weren't quiet affairs, they were events. Families packed baskets with bread, cheese, and ale, as if they were going to a fair. Merchants sold trinkets and food to the waiting crowd. Musicians sometimes played drums or trumpets to announce the arrival of the condemned. The execution itself was more than punishment, it was a warning. Rulers wanted their subjects to see, to feel the fear, and to know what fate awaited anyone who dared to defy the law. But the line between justice and entertainment blurred quickly. People didn't just watch, they enjoyed. The gruesome methods of execution. The methods of execution varied, and each carried its own horrifying spectacle. Hanging was the most common, but even that was rarely swift. Botched hangings left prisoners writhing for minutes as the crowd jeered. Beheadings were considered noble deaths, reserved for the upper classes, but even those could go horribly wrong. An inexperienced executioner sometimes needed several swings of the axe to finish the deed, leaving the condemned screaming while the audience gasped or laughed nervously. Burning at the stake was another public favorite. Fire crackled, smoke rose, and the condemned's cries filled the air. Some spectators treated it like a morality play, where flames purified the soul. Others simply saw it as excitement, the ultimate live drama. And then came the most infamous methods, drawing and quartering, breaking on the wheel, or boiling alive. These weren't just punishments, they were designed to stretch out suffering, to entertain the masses through shock and horror. The executioner, villain, hero, or performer. Every performance needs a star, and in the medieval execution, it was the executioner. Feared, respected, and often shunned, executioners lived strange double lives. By day, they might be avoided in taverns and markets, believed to be cursed by their bloody trade. But when the execution bell rang, they commanded the stage. With sword or axe in hand, the executioner could be met with boos if he failed, or cheers if he delivered a clean cut. Some executioners even gained fame. They were paid well, sometimes more than skilled craftsmen, and their precision became legendary. Audiences expected them not only to kill, but to perform. The condemned's final words, the swing of the blade, and even the dramatic raising of the severed head were all part of the show. The audience. Why people loved the spectacle. Why did people flock to these gruesome scenes? Part of it was fear. The rulers wanted their subjects to see justice served. But another part was sheer entertainment. In a world without movies, TV, or internet, the drama of life and death played out in real time before the eyes of common folk. The execution was a chance to gather, gossip, and feel part of something bigger. Children attended, lovers courted, and vendors profited. It was also deeply social. Watching someone punished reassured people of their own moral standing. That criminal is guilty, I am safe. But the line blurred when people began cheering for blood, treating the condemned's suffering as sport. In many ways, executions became the medieval version of a blockbuster movie or a gladiator match. The fall of the public spectacle. Over time, attitudes began to shift. By the Enlightenment era, thinkers began to question whether public brutality truly served justice or simply indulged cruelty. Reformers argued that executions turned the crowd more savage, not more lawful. By the 18th and 19th centuries, many countries moved executions behind prison walls. The spectacle ended, but the memory remained. What was once an accepted form of justice was now seen as barbaric cruelty. Today, such practices would be prosecuted as crimes against humanity, unfit for any civilized society. The condemned. Final words, last meals, and rituals. Every execution wasn't only about punishment, it was also about the condemned's final moments. Medieval society gave unusual importance to last words. Crowds often fell silent to hear a criminal's final speech, believing those words carried power from the edge of death. Some begged forgiveness, others cursed their judges, and a few defiantly embraced their fate. Then there was the tradition of the last meal. While not always as generous as today's idea, many rulers allowed a final bite or drink, sometimes bread and ale, sometimes something more lavish if the condemned had noble connections. Rituals also played a role. Priests often walked with the prisoner, encouraging repentance. In some towns, bells tolled as the condemned passed, marking their final journey. These small human touches, words, food, prayer, contrasted sharply with the brutality that followed, adding a chilling layer of drama to the spectacle. When executions went wrong. Not every execution went according to plan, and when they failed, the results were unforgettable. A hangman might miscalculate the rope's length, causing the victim to dangle and choke slowly instead of dying instantly. Beheadings sometimes became nightmarish. There are records of executioners needing 5, 6, even 7 blows to finally sever the head, with the horrified or amused crowd watching each attempt. Even burnings at the stake sometimes backfired. If the firewood was damp, smoke choked the condemned before flames consumed them. In rare cases, prisoners even broke free of their bindings, forcing guards to chase them down while the crowd roared. These botched executions, while horrific, were also moments when the show became unpredictable, half tragedy, half grotesque comedy. To the medieval crowd, it was still entertainment, even if it revealed just how cruel and flawed the system truly was. Conclusion: lessons from a blood-stained past. So, what can we learn from this medieval fascination with death as entertainment? Perhaps it reminds us of the thin line between justice and cruelty, between punishment and spectacle. The medieval crowd saw execution as both law and leisure, but history has judged otherwise. If public executions happen today, they wouldn't just shock us, they would outrage us. They stand as a reminder that society's sense of morality evolves, and what was once accepted can later be condemned. The next time we gather for entertainment, whether at a cinema or a concert, imagine for a moment what it would have been like to stand shoulder to shoulder in a medieval crowd, not to laugh or sing, but to cheer as someone's life was extinguished. The medieval world may be long gone, but its shadows linger, warning us never to let justice become a spectacle again. If you enjoyed this deep dive into ancient scandal, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another story from the strange and shocking side of history.